If you've ever been travelling on a shoestring budget, you'll know that when you get to a location sweaty, exhausted, and with a drained social battery, sourcing a capsule hotel is like hitting the jackpot. They're cheap, you get actual privacy, and you can easily avoid talking to anyone if all you want to do is catch up on sleep for a night or two. We know that these capsule hotels are all the rage in Japan, but today we're exploring the construction of an apartment block in the iconic Nakagin Capsule Tower, originally built in 1972 in Tokyo. This design originated in the concept of metabolic architecture and were marketed towards businessmen who came regularly to Tokyo. For those who love minimalism and tiny living, it is the dream, usually filling a space of just 10 square metres, including a bed, bathroom, fold-out desk and a contemporary state-of-the-art technologies in the 1970s, including a tape player, TV and a dial phone. Iconic. As mentioned, this tower block was inspired by Metabolist architecture, which is a design style that originated in Japan in the late 1950s and early 1960s. It is a movement that brought together a concept of architectural megastructures with ideas of organic biological growth. It is characterised by a focus on modular and flexible structures that can adapt and change over time, like the metabolism of a living organism. This style that emerged in post-war Japan wanted to create buildings and megastructures that could evolve, expand, contract, and fundamentally adapt to the changing environmental conditions. Inspired by this concept, Kisho Kurokawa designed the Nakagin Tower. This was composed of 140 identical cell-like capsule units, which were bolted into the central shaft of the building. It is located in the Ginza neighbourhood and flew up in just 30 days in 1972. It was formed of two connected towers that were made of concrete and was constructed with 140 prefabricated steel modules bolted into the main shaft, each module measuring 2.5 metres by 4 metres, with a round window in the end. These were intended to be maintained and replaced every 25 years or so, but there were problems with ownership and funding that meant that many of the capsules fell into disrepair after the 2008 recession. The Metabolist movement, despite gaining popularity worldwide, could not keep this building alive. In 2018, owners began renting the capsules out on a month-to-month basis to architect lovers whilst they searched for a buyer of the building. But the coronavirus lockdowns eventually flattened all hopes of keeping the building alive. And almost 50 years after its construction, Nagakin Tower was destroyed in 2022 due to concerns over structural integrity and fears over the presence of asbestos. There was a movement led by a former resident, Tatsuyuki Maeda, who led a Nakagin Capsule Tower preservation and restoration project to ensure that 23 of the capsules were saved and preserved and given new life in buildings around the world. A Japanese digital consultancy, Gluon, has tried to keep it alive and taken 20,000 photographs from laser scanning to create an augmented reality model of the capsule tower in an attempt to capture the culturally valuable memory of the block. And to pass on the value of the architecture to future generations, in a project called the 3D Digital Archive Project. Being three-dimensional, it records the complex shapes and structures in a way that photographs and drawings cannot. There will also be an augmented reality version available which will allow people to enter the capsules as if they were in a video game from the comfort of their iPhone. Once the project is complete, it will be available on a website as an open source and free resource, with the intention of preserving and celebrating the building. Described as a really wonderful and important building, many were sad at its destruction. Whilst it may have outlived its function and was no longer viable as residences, tearing it down is a tragedy. This is a short-sightedness. Once it's gone, you can't get it back. I hope some design museum buys at least one capsule and saves it for prosperity, says another commenter. But others were less sympathetic. Walter Astor pointed out, architects who claim to like this crude building should be forced to live in one of the pit pods for a year or more. Only direct experience of the dehumanising severity of this appalling building would cure them from their elitist and misguided pretensions. It's a scathing remark. Others, like Valeria Alfonso, echo the same sentiment. The architectural vision is short-sighted, utilitarian, and quite depressing. No life, no beauty, no imagination. A dystopia envisioned for the rational worst-case scenario, rather than aspiring for better ways to live. No surprise that the architects were influenced by Marxism. An iconic building or a dystopian eyesore, that's for you to decide. Whilst you mull this over, let's explore the origins of this iconic building. The concept came from a group of young architects that included Kiyonoi Kikate, Kisho Kurokawa and Fumikiko Maki, who put together a metabolism manifesto in the lead-up to the 1960 Tokyo World Design Conference. The group's concept was shaped by a variety of thought sources, including Marxist theories and biological processes. The tower embodies and reflects the ideals of the metabolism, named after a biological process that keeps the body alive, with modules designed to be swapped out, mimicking the way an organism renews itself. The Japanese translation of the word, shinshin taisha, or metabolism, describes the exchange of materials and energy between organisms and the exterior world, the replacement of the old with the new. The group's manifesto, Metabolism, Proposals for a New World Urbanism, was published at the World Design Conference. It was a 90-page book and opened with the statement, "Metabolism is the name of the group, in which each member proposes further designs for our coming world through his concrete designs and illustrations. We regard human society as a vital process, a continuous development from atom to nebula. The reason why we choose such a biological word, metabolism, is that we believe design and technology should be a denotation of human society. We are not going to accept metabolism as a natural process, but try to encourage active metabolic development of our society through our proposals." The manifesto included a series of 4 essays titled The Ocean City, Space City, Towards Group Form, and Material and Man. The Ocean City proposed a city that would float free on the ocean, free from ties to a nation, and therefore free from the threat of war. It proposes creating artificial land as a response to land scarcity, with residential towers, agriculture, and industry descending into an ocean of 200 metres. Once it becomes too old for habitation, it would sink itself. The Space City included designs for a wall city that could extend indefinitely. Confronting the issue of expanding distance between home and work, housing would be on one side of the wall and workplaces on the other, with the wall itself containing transportation and services. The group form essay focuses on flexible form of human planning that can accommodate rapid and unpredictable requirements of a city. The Material and Man essay was short and sweet and reflected the cultural anguish in the post-war era and proposed a unification of man and nature, with Kawazoe titling his essay, "I want to be a seashell, I want to be a mould, I want to be a spirit." And to wrap it up, the metabolism movement was a huge inspiration in Wes Anderson's Isle of Dogs movie. Described as a hellish and beautiful architecture, production designer Paul Harrod took inspiration from the work of Kenzo Tanji and other examples of Japan's futuristic metabolism architectural movement when creating the film sets. The Metabolists weren't throwing out the history of Japanese design. The depiction of Megasaki City is combined of Metabolist and more run-of-the-mill kinds of skyscrapers and buildings. And I think that's a really nice place to stop today's episode. I really hope you enjoyed watching as much as I enjoyed researching and presenting. Big shout out to Wikipedia and Design magazine for this one. They're always so handy when writing these episodes. If you enjoyed, please give us a like and please do subscribe for more. I bring out new episodes every Tuesday. All right, see you later. Goodbye.